What's up, Market family? So you guys asked for Halloween DIYs, and that's what I'm bringing to you today. Dollar Tree is getting in a bunch of Halloween decor right now, and though it looks like fall behind me, it's actually 91 degrees outside. So let me know the weather near you. Is it feeling like fall at all? Anyways, let's begin the video.
The next time you're in Dollar Tree, pick up one of their mop heads. They carry them on their own, or you can buy the one that has a handle attached to it. This part is optional, but hear me out, it looks way better if you untwist the fabric that's twisted on the mop, creating thinner pieces. You want your mop to be stiff, so use a max hold hairspray and spray one side. Once it's dry, flip the mop over and spray the other side. I used Suave Max Hold hairspray. I then spray painted my mop using a brown spray paint. You can use acrylic paint if you like, it's just more time consuming, and I also like that the spray paint helps stiffen the mop even more. Once the spray paint has dried, I brought the mop inside and used a light brown paint to create some highlights. We're trying to make the mop look like a straw broom. I then glued some rope on top of the mop to make it look more aged. Now this is how you're going to get your broom to move. Go to Five Below and pick up a remote control car for $5. You'll need to use something flat like a square block to attach the mop and the car together. Flip your mop over to reveal the plastic piece that is underneath the mop, and then use a heavy-duty glue like E6000 to attach the wood block to the mop and to the car. I also used some hot glue because it just dries more quickly and makes things go a little bit faster. You can use the mop handle that comes with the mop if you like, but I decided to use a wooden dowel that I got for around $1.50 from Walmart just because it's very lightweight. I also painted this dowel a brown color and then glued some rope to the top of it to give it a more antique look. The reason you have to stiffen up the mop is so that the fabric doesn't keep getting stuck underneath the car wheels. It just kind of floats with the car. This is an original idea that I had to think real hard on how to make it work. It does work. It cost me $10 to make when it retails for $80 on Amazon. And make sure you follow me on TikTok because I plan on doing something similar using a Roomba. Every year, Dollar Tree gets in these ghosts. If you have a ceiling fan, you can do a cool hack with these. What you're going to do is you are just going to tie them to the ceiling fan. I'm using twine to attach mine to the ceiling fans, and guess what? That's it. You just tie them to the ceiling fan, then turn the ceiling fan on. It looks like there's ghosts flying around your house. And don't worry, the ghosts are very lightweight, so they won't be bending any of the fans on your ceiling fan. This is an easy hack to do, and it looks really, really cool. If the fabric is a little bit too long for you, you can always trim that down. The next time you're in Dollar Tree, pick up 2 cocoa plant liners. You won't believe what you can make with these. You're going to place them inside of each other to basically make a Pac-Man head shape. And when you have that shape down, you can then glue them to each other. Hold the cocoa liners together until the glue has completely dried, and then move on to gluing another section. When you're in Dollar Tree, pick up a broom handle. You're going to trace the broom handle on the bottom of your coconut liner and create a hole using some scissors. You're then going to push the handle through that hole. Now it's time to paint your coconut liner. I'm using a lime green color on the coconut liner. I recommend using a paint sponge to paint this. It makes it so much easier, and do a stippling motion versus a stroke. The edge of the coconut liners has what looks already like a lip, so I painted that area red. I also used black paint. I mixed it with my green paint and with my red paint to shade different areas, and then I used the black paint on its own, especially in the inside of the mouth. Our mouth needs teeth. I'm going to be using craft foam I got from Hobby Lobby, but Dollar Tree also carries white craft foam. It's just hard to find sometimes. I glue them inside of the mouth just using hot glue, and I don't like to keep them all white, so I use some shades of brown paint to just dirty up the teeth a little bit. Now I got a pool noodle from Dollar Tree. I cut it down to about 3 feet, and I push my broomstick through the pool noodle. Now I'm going to be using a planter I got from Dollar General for $10. We're flipping it over, and we're using our drill to create a big hole at the bottom. This way we can place our broomstick through this hole. You don't want it to be too big, otherwise the broomstick is going to fall right over. I placed some gravel and stones at the bottom of this. The stones were from Dollar Tree and the gravel was from Walmart. You just want this to be weighted at the bottom so it's not easy to tip over. I ended up painting the pool noodle. I just used a darker green, black, and brown paint. Once I have that done, it's time to attach some fake greenery. Now this greenery I got at Hobby Lobby. You can use Dollar Tree greenery, but you end up spending more at Dollar Tree than you do just going to a craft store and getting it on sale. And when I glued the greenery to the coconut liner, I held it in place while I wait for the glue to dry. That's how I made these almost 5 feet tall Venus fly traps, and I made them for under $25. I only needed 4 Dollar Tree products plus the greenery from Hobby Lobby, which was $8, and then the planter, which was $10. Okay, for this project, you want to pick up some gift boxes from Dollar Tree. I went with 2 of these cylinder shapes, and I'm removing the lid. You're also going to need some craft foam. I purchased this big pack from Walmart. You get 50 sheets for a little over $5. I'm starting off with the bigger cylinder, and I'm taking the lime green foam and cutting it out to go around the cylinder. I'll also be cutting a piece that's going to go on the top. Once I have those pieces cut, I use some glue to attach them to the cylinder boxes. I used foam glue on the bigger pieces that go on the sides just because sometimes hot glue can mess with the shape of foam, so I didn't want any weird lines going through the pieces on the side. I'm going to be making 3 different tiers. The bottom one is supposed to be a little Frankenstein, so I use my black foam to create some hairs, stitches, the eyes, and the mouth. Now for the second tier, I go ahead and glue the box on top of my Frankenstein, and this one I turned into a ghost. So I used white foam for this and then black foam for the features. I decided I wanted to do one more smaller tier. I didn't use a box for this, but Dollar Tree does carry small boxes you can use in the craft supply section if you want. Instead, I just took the foam and created a cylinder shape with that foam. And this is supposed to be a tiny little pumpkin. You guys know I love to make fake sweets on this channel, and I usually do these with spackle. I decided to do one that's done without spackle to give you guys some options. I'm going to be using pom-poms from Dollar Tree as the icing for this, as well as some ribbon. And this ribbon I got at Hobby Lobby on sale for $1.50. You just hot glue them wherever you see fit, and if you want to go with spackle, you most definitely can. Finally, I just painted on a little bit more features, for instance some more whites on the eye, and then I wanted to give my ghost and the pumpkin some cheeks, so I used a light pink paint to do that. And that's how you make a foam and pom-pom cake instead of doing the spackle. And of course, you can always add spackle to this to truly make it look like a cake. Either way, this is adorable and so easy to do. Recently on my channel, I shared with you guys how to make a giant gingerbread house out of Dollar Tree foam board. I knew when I did that we had to make a haunted house. So I picked up some black foam board from Dollar Tree, and I recommend having a box cutter or an X-Acto knife on hand to cut through your foam board. I like using an L bracket just to figure out where to cut exactly and get a straight line. Now, I'm not going to give you guys the exact dimensions for this because it's a little bit hard for me to do, but basically figure out a haunted house design that you want to make. I make sure both the front and the back of the haunted house are the exact same thing. I also ended up cutting out some little pieces that are going to go in the front of the house so it pops out a little bit more. I'm going to put fairy lights inside of my haunted house, so I need windows so that you can actually see the fairy lights. So I just go ahead and I cut out windows. I don't try to make every window the exact same size as the window I cut before. I just try my best with it. Now, once you have all your walls cut, you can then start gluing them to a base of foam board. Now, you're going to have a lot of scrapped leftover pieces of foam board. Cut those pieces into smaller pieces that you're going to use to help support your walls. So as you glue your walls down, you layer some of those little scrap pieces to just help keep everything nice and upright. I used 5 pieces of foam board to do this, and let me tell you guys, it really was so easy to do. Now, the truly fun part, decorating the house, I got these black webs from Dollar Tree and I just placed them on top of the haunted house. Like I said, I want to put fairy lights inside of my haunted house. I got these from Amazon. I'll link them down below. They're remote controlled, which makes it really nice because you don't want to have to put your hand inside of there every single time to turn them on. And I put 3 fairy lights inside of each kind of compartment of my haunted house. Dollar Tree carries bat clips and spiders that are perfect for this, so I decided to clip and glue some of these pieces onto the haunted house. And after I did all of this, I was like, you know what, this needs a little something else. So I decided to dry brush some white paint. So basically what that means is you take a brush, dip it inside of some paint, remove most of the paint from the brush, and then do light strokes over your project. And this is going to kind of create a very distressed look. That's how I made a haunted house using 5 pieces of foam board from Dollar Tree. I love this thing so much. It is so cool, and I feel like you can take advantage of the inside of the haunted house and maybe put some ghost or something inside of there. I truly love this DIY, and if you recreate it, make sure you tag me because I would love to see it. Every year, I love to make potion bottles on my channel. I don't like to just put labels on the front. I like to make them unique. So I'm going to share with you everything I stuck in my bottles. For the first bottle, I got these bones from Dollar Tree, and I placed the bones inside of the bottle. All of the bottles I'm using are from Dollar Tree. The second bottle, I'm going to be using these small little skull heads that I got at Michael's. I paid around $4 for them. Halloween at Michael's is already on sale for 40% off. I then cut down some of these broomsticks that I got from Dollar Tree. I had to cut them down to fit the inside of this glass. I got foam bones from Dollar Tree, so I put those in another glass. I decided to dirty up some water with some acrylic paint and pour that into the first glass that has the bones, so it would look a little bit different from the one that has the foam bones. In another glass, I'm going to be placing some of the spiders that I also got from Dollar Tree. If you don't want to buy a bunch of individual things for the glasses, I recommend getting food coloring. This way you're able to use water and food coloring to get some really spooky potion bottles. Finally, the last bottle I have to share with you guys, which is my favorite. I got one of those bigger ghosts that you saw me use earlier, and I cut some pieces down that I filled up with some cotton at the top and tied. I'm making little ghosts out of these, and then I just painted little faces on them. I'm going to be putting these inside of the bottle. I did glue the bigger ghosts to the lid of the bottle, so that way they kind of float up a little bit better. I made some labels I'll link down below for you guys that I printed out on some sticker paper, and then I cut out just using my scissors. So here are the labels and what goes with each bottle. The skulls has a label that says pickled skulls. Then the brooms have a witch's broom label. The ghosts have a bottle of booze label. The foam bones have a label that says bone powder. It's not powdery by any means, but hey. The spider's label is spider venom. Then the potion bottles that I made with the food coloring, the red one I did arsenic poisoning, then the green one is snake venom. Finally, our last label is dragon bones, and that's how you make these really cool, unique potion bottles. Don't get me wrong, I still like the bottles where they just have a label on the front and then the bottle is like a solid color. However, I prefer these. These are so much more interesting to look at, and they can be kind of funny if you can find a cool play on words, like the bottle of booze one. I love making potion bottles on this channel, but like I said, I like to do them in a unique way. Last year we used the Dollar Tree doll houses to make haunted houses. We're going to do something similar but different. I'll be using 2 of the pink doll houses from Dollar Tree. I'm removing the windows, frames, doors, roof, everything from it. I'm just gonna have the base of the house. I painted one house all yellow and then the other house all orange. I had to do a few layers of paint to get an opaque look. So I did one layer of paint, wait for it to dry, and then move on to the next layer. You don't want to keep adding layers when the paint is still wet, otherwise you're not going to achieve the look that you want. Dollar Tree carries white houses as well, and I'm going to be using this for the top of what I'm making. I removed, again, all the window frames, the door frame, the roof, and I'm just keeping that all white. But I did paint the roof of this house black. Then the doors I took out of the houses, I painted yellow, orange, and white. I'm going to be stacking the houses on top of each other. To do this, I have to remove the plastic corners that are on the bottom of the houses that are going to be stacked on top of each other. If you don't remove those pieces, you won't be able to glue them down flat to each other. So I removed those pieces and then I glued the houses down. And basically, I'm making a candy corn house. You can then put back in your windows and the frames. I only put back in the windows that were white, and I actually used some of the windows from the bottom houses for the top of the roof. Then glued the houses to a piece of foam board because I'm going to be using spackle. You put spackle inside of a piping bag with an icing tip, and then you just treat it as if it were icing that you're icing on top of a gingerbread house. Dollar Tree does carry spackle, but my favorite spackle is DAP spackle that you find at Home Depot. It's just creamy. You don't have to mix it with water. You get more bang for your buck. I like it a lot more. So I just did like some different designs on top of this. I embellished this with some fake candy corns, and I'll link the seller I used down below for you guys. I got it from Etsy. Then I used some puff paint from Dollar Tree to create more detailed designs that I really cannot do with the spackle, to make it look more like a gingerbread house. Little designs that look like lights and wreaths and snow. It's just easier to use the puff paint for these designs than spackle, like I said, because spackle, it's like, no, you would have a very hard time doing this with spackle. So we are making a gingerbread haunted house type of situation, even though this is candy corn, so it's a little bit sweeter. It's so cute and easy to do, you guys, and it's really fun because you can go with like any design. It doesn't have to be just candy corn. I absolutely love the way that this turned out. I want to make some little fake cookies to go along with this. Right now at Dollar Tree, you can find Halloween Christmas trees. I'll be using 9 for this project. I remove the bottom off of all the trees except one, and then push all the branches of the trees to one side. I'm going to share with you how you can make one bigger, substantial, fuller tree using multiple trees. Dollar Tree Christmas trees are very sparse. They look kind of sad on their own, so you want to get at least 2 to make a fuller tree. I recommend 3, but you want at least 2. What you'll do is you'll use zip ties to attach a group of trees together, whether that's 2, 3, 4. More than 4, it just starts to look like funny. So what you're going to do is just use those zip ties and tie all your trees together. So I'm going to do 3 rows of trees, and in each row there's going to be 3 attached to each other. So I have the top of my Christmas tree, which is 3 trees, and then when I attach the middle of the Christmas tree, I attach the top of these trees that I'm adding to the bottom of the trees that are already there. And that's how I attach all the trees together. All the trees are attached. You can cut the zip ties off and then place the stands on the one piece that you still left the plastic on. I'll share with you guys how I decorated mine. Dollar Tree carries miniature ornaments that are great for these mini trees. I picked up 3 packs, and I mainly focused on the front of my tree. I do this with my Christmas tree too. I don't put ornaments all the time all around the tree. I just make sure that if I don't put it on the back, I don't make the front too weighted, otherwise it'll fall over on you. I also added some of these ornaments. These I ended up getting at Home Goods. I got them last year. They were $9.99, so I placed some of those on my tree. Right now Dollar Tree has candy corn picks, so I remove the candy corn off of the picks and then I glue them to the Christmas tree. I purchased this ghost pick from Michael's for a little over $2. This is going to be my tree topper. And then I used one of the webs from Dollar Tree as the skirt for my tree. That's how you make a bigger tree using these small trees from Dollar Tree. This tree is about 3 feet tall and it cost me $11.25 to make, which is a steal. Of course, the price of the ornaments, that's different, but the tree base itself was $11.25. Right now, Dollar Tree has foam skulls in, and what's nice about these is they are easier to work with than the plastic ones they get in. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this little like skewer, it's honestly a kitchen thing, I'm making a hole through my skulls and then feeding a broomstick through the skulls. I'll be using 5 total. I figure out how I want these skeletons to look when they're stacked on top of each other, and I make the holes according to that. And I really recommend using something to create those holes instead of just the broomstick, because it's really hard to create a hole with just a broomstick. Once I have all the skulls on top of the broomstick, I went outside and I spray painted them with a cream color. I decided to spray paint them again, as I said earlier, it's just faster to do for me, but you can always use an acrylic paint. I then went in with acrylic paint to add the details. So the shading, the highlighting that I need, the cracks that I need. I kind of just played it by ear. I started with black and I put those inside of the areas I wanted to be the darkest. So the eyes and the nose. I then went in with like brown tones and tried to make the skulls look a little bit more dirty. And then I did like a grayish color around the teeth. Just figure out what works for you. I purchased this planter at Dollar Tree. I'm going to be gluing some foam pieces also from Dollar Tree to the bottom of the planter. And once I have those foam pieces in, I push my broomstick through the foam, so now it's standing upright. I placed a kitchen towel at the bottom of this to dummy it up so that I could put some stones from Dollar Tree inside of here but not have to use as many stones. You need something down there though that's weighted, otherwise this is going to fall over on you because it's so lightweight. To really spook this up, I put some webs from Dollar Tree on the bottom of this, and that's it. That's how I made this. I don't really know what you want to call this, like Tower of Skulls. I don't know, but it's really spooky looking. Really wanted to do another DIY using the foam skulls from Dollar Tree. So for this project, we're going to need 2 of the paper towel holders from Dollar Tree. You are going to push 2 heads through a paper towel holder, and then once you have those 2 heads through there, you take another paper towel holder and put it through the top of the skull heads. Now I purchased 2 of these wood rounds from Dollar Tree. I'm going to be gluing my paper towel holders to these wood rounds using hot glue. I recommend using something else than hot glue. I'm just using hot glue because it dries quickly and I'm filming. I'm trying to do things fast. If you use hot glue like I did though, do not put anything heavy on top of this. And make sure you put more hot glue on the bottom paper towel holder that's touching that bottom wood piece. Don't worry about it. It gets covered up, or you can use something to cover it up. I then went ahead and I spray painted this entire thing black. I then went in with some gold acrylic paint to highlight areas of the skull. That's how you make this really cool skull stand. I wouldn't put anything too heavy on the top of this, especially if you use hot glue. I absolutely love the way that this one turned out. This is a simple project. You can get these traffic cones in the toy section of Dollar Tree and just paint them to look like candy corn. Make sure you're using a paint that is meant for outside use. So in this case, you're just going to use white and yellow paint. And you're gonna have to do a few layers of this because it's plastic. If you use an acrylic paint, it doesn't really go on plastic the nicest the first time around. So you have to do a few layers to get that opaque look. What you see right here is my second layer of paint, and you can see it starts looking way more opaque with the second layer of paint. You can use this outside to make some really cute decor. I think it's super unique because I never really see people decorate with candy corn outside. The other thing you can do is get styrofoam from Dollar Tree, the ones that look like cones, and paint that instead, which I prefer this way just because I don't have to do a bunch of layers of paint. I just do one. The way you get these to stand outside without falling over with any type of wind is by using bamboo skewers from Dollar Tree. I break them in half, I stick them in the ground, and then put the cone over the skewer. And I go straight down with the cone so that the skewer doesn't poke out of the sides. And that's it. These are so cute. I want to make more and have them all over for Halloween. For our next project, you're going to need some wood beads. Dollar Tree carries them. They're unfinished. You can paint them black if you want, or you can buy them already colored. And I have this black garland I bought at Walmart last year when it was on clearance. I probably paid like $1 for all of this, so I'm going to use that instead. Now, I'm going to also be using some fake apples. You can get these at Hobby Lobby for inexpensive price. I think I paid $3 for a big bag of them. We're going to be making poison apple garland. So I'm going to be using these yarn needles, and I'm going to tie some string through one of the yarn needles. I then am going to start putting some beads on top of that, and as I put beads, I'm also going to be putting some of the foam apples. Now I want to do this beforehand because once I have glue on top of this, which is what we're going to be using, I'm going to have a hard time getting the needle through the glue. So I need this big needle to get through the foam of the apple, and I use pliers to pull it out. So I push the needle through the apple and then use pliers to pull it out. I use used a mixture of red and green apples. Now to get the poison apple face and the look of it, I'm going to be using hot glue. Now when you're doing this, you don't want to hold the apple for long, just hold it to get the initial face down, and then once you start to pour the rest of the hot glue, stop holding the apple unless you want to burn your fingerprints off. Unless you have those glue gun finger protectors, you can use those, but if you don't have those, don't hold it long because you will burn your fingers. Make sure wherever you're pouring the hot glue on the apple, you don't mind hot glue getting on that surface. So in this case, I had these little coasters that I was using. If the hot glue got on there, it's really easy to take off. I like to use hot glue for this because I like the 3D look it gives it. It makes it look more like it was dipped into something. You can always just use paint instead and not do it this way, but I really do like the way that the hot glue makes this look. Wait for the hot glue to completely dry before you start to paint over it. I used a lime green paint and a red paint. The red apples I painted with the lime green, and the green apples I painted with the red color. You are going to have to do a few layers of paint and wait for each layer to dry before putting on your next layer. The reason you're gonna have to do a few layers of paint is to get the opaque look, unless you don't really mind a bit of the hot glue still showing underneath your paint. Now to hang this on top of my fireplace, I'm just tying the ends of my garland to some command strips, and then I place that on my fireplace. Now this garland is heavy because of the apples. So to get the apples to stay where I want them to stay put, I'm using some glue dots that I got from Dollar Tree. I just place them on the back of each apple and then place the apple exactly how I want it to be. I made this garland a little bit too long for my fireplace, so please try to excuse that. This garland is so darn cute. I have never seen something like this before. I've seen the poison apples that you can buy, but I've never seen a garland of it. It's so cute to do. And last year I made the poison apples, but I made them bigger, and it's the exact same thing as before. It's just easier to make the faces on the bigger apples. You use your hot glue gun to create the face and the little dip look to it, and then once the glue dries, you can paint it. I did shade around the eyes and the nose with some black paint on these apples to really give it some dimension. I shared this project last year. Not everyone has seen it, so I want to reshare it because it's really good. You can get some blank t-shirts at Dollar Tree. If you can find 100% cotton t-shirts, I recommend getting those. You're also going to pick up some of their DIY wood blanks. Then get an empty spray bottle and bleach. You're going to fill the spray bottle up with bleach. If you have a piece of cardboard lying around, put that in between your t-shirts. What we're going to do is we are going to place our wood blanks on top of the t-shirts and spray the bleach on top of that. What happens is the design that's on the wood blank transfers onto your t-shirts. The bleach just goes around it, but still leaves the design. It's really, really cool. After they're done, you can go ahead and wash these inside of the washing machine, and that's it. So easy to do and super cool. Next up, we're going to be making the Hocus Pocus book. From Dollar Tree, you want to pick up a blank book as well as their faux leather that you're going to find near all of the Cricut items. So it's a long roll. What you'll do is you'll cut that piece down to wrap around the inside of the book as well as the outside. Once you have that cut down, just glue it into place with your hot glue gun. Now we'll be using some fake eyeballs from Dollar Tree. You're going to want to go ahead and cut those in half. All you have to do is find the hole that's in the ball and then put your scissor through it, and that way you'll be able to cut it in half. Once you have it cut in half, take the part that has the iris and glue that onto your book. Now this is the most time-consuming part of this DIY, but it is so easy to do. You just take your hot glue gun and you use it to create the designs that are on the book. You want to do layers of this. So in the corners of the book, there's these little snake designs. So you want to start off with a layer there, and that's going to be the very base of the design. And once that dries, start adding the snake design over it. So it starts to give it that 3D effect. Another example are the stitches and the wounds. I started off making the wounds, and then I waited for that to dry, and then I went over that with the glue again to create the stitches, and that's how I created the 3D effect. After you have all of your designs down, it's time to paint everything. I recommend going over every design except for the eyelid area with black paint. This gives it a really good base, and it gives the paint that you apply afterwards something to attach to. After I have every area that I want painted black, I then go in with my colors. The only colors I used on the book itself, not the eye, were silver, black, white, and brown paint. If you're into highlighting and shading like I am, all you have to do is dip your finger inside of the paint and rub it over the leather. It's really easy to blend it that way versus using a paintbrush. And that's how I shaded and I highlighted the book. The only other thing that was left for me to do was to paint the eyeball. The eyeball of the Hocus Pocus book is not yellow. I went with blue. I just used some blue paint to paint over the iris and then black paint to paint over the pupil a little more. I love the way that this book came out. If you cannot find the leather from Dollar Tree, I will link my other tutorial down below for you guys. That one I used toilet paper, and anybody can find toilet paper. I mean, I guess if it was 2020 you might not have been able to find toilet paper, but now you can. Moving right along, from Dollar Tree you're going to want to pick up some of their hanging coffin signs, and I recommend at least using 3, but if you want to use more, honestly, the more the better. And you're also going to be using these chalkboard signs, again from Dollar Tree. Now, I had my husband cut down these signs to make pieces that are going to go around the coffin. Again, you do not need to use a saw or anything like that. You can use scissors. Now go ahead and glue your coffins on top of each other. And the reason you need a few of these is so that the chalkboard has something to attach to. So once I have all of my coffins glued on top of each other, I can now attach the chalkboard to the sides of the coffin. I used hot glue to do this, but I really recommend using a more heavy duty glue. I just used the hot glue because it dries quickly and I don't have to like wait forever to finish filming a video. This part is completely optional. You can keep the imagery as is, but I decided to paint over that imagery using some black paints. And I also painted over the edges of the chalkboard. Now it's time to decorate the inside of the coffin. I got these skulls from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be gluing one on top of the other, and I just use hot glue to do this. Now as you do this, you're going to notice that these skulls are kind of tipping over because they're very lightweight. They don't have a base under them. When you stick them inside of the coffin, the walls of the coffin are going to keep them upright. Then I added some fairy lights. Now I have to credit somebody for this DIY, my husband. If you guys like this DIY, say thanks to Matt in the comments, because he's the one who came up with this. He actually made a different coffin using the wall shelves from Dollar Tree. We didn't have enough for me to do that on camera, so that's why I ended up using the chalkboard signs. I'm going to show you guys how I decorated his coffin. I got this little skeleton from Dollar Tree. I went ahead and glued him inside. I added some web and spiders from Dollar Tree, and then that's just how I decorated Matt's coffin. So again, thanks to Matt. These are super cool. They're about 2 feet tall, and they would even work outside if you wanted them to. So that's it for these Halloween DIYs. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your favorite down in the comments, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.